Okay, we're going to go put our air compressor on. You can see it. There's a gasket on here already. It's a metal. There's two studs this goes on. Spline into the front gear train. Air compressor one time. Okay, there's two bolts or two nuts that hold it to the gear case housing on top bottom. Back behind here there's a stiffener plate, so we'll tighten all that up. And okay, I want to check my air compressor, make sure I got backlash. Kind of hard to turn. There you can see it moving, or hear it clinking, so we got good backlash there. Okay, now we're going to put our high pressure fuel pump in. There's a keyway right here that has to line up with the gears, and we do get it in. There's no ring there that I lubed. Pretty straightforward. There's 4 nuts, 2 here and 2 on the other side. Tighten those down evenly, and that is installed. And then we'll go to the front gear train, check backlash and all that fun stuff. Okay, we installed our fuel pump gear. You see right here and here there's 2 zeros, and there's a keyway that comes down here. Right down inside of that keyway that you're looking at, there's a pin in there that needs to be lined up to time the pump. This is a common rail pump, so it usually wouldn't matter, but they actually do have some runnability issues if you don't have that lined up correctly. I marked the 2 gears so maybe you can see a little better. The nut goes on here. This torques to 132 foot-pounds. Once that's torqued down, the fuel pump is pretty much installed. The other thing that's important for that keyway to be lined up is this is also how we time it. When we go to set it overhead, so I gotta hold this thing a little bit. Okay, now it's torqued. Bring the marks back. I'd forgotten there's a little brace here that goes in for the high pressure fuel pump. Helps keep that up, some of the force off of it. Okay, go back and torque those, but I know they're good. Okay, here's a little fuel manifold. This is inlet, this is outlet, or return to tank. The bolts right here, and then we're going to have a bunch of fittings hooked to this as far as our Ecm Cooling Plate, ejector lines, and all that stuff, fun stuff. This is my Ecm cooler plate. There's an electric pump in here, so fuel comes in here through the primer pump, comes out on this one. This bolt's behind the ECM to cool the ECM because there's some drivers and things in there that get hot. So we'll go ahead and put this on and we'll get our lines and start getting those going. Seems kind of a plumbing nightmare. Okay, fuel comes in on this one right here. Comes through this line. This is going to go through that electric pump on the back of the ECM cooler. Right there. Kind of see it there. Okay, it's gonna come out of that cooler. Gonna come out of that fuel cooler into the lift pump over here. Out of the lift pump, it's going to go to the fuel filter. But all of these fittings have these special washers on them. See one there and one there. Those have to be there. This is a return back to here because this goes back to tank. This is also our turn off the head, so there's another one there. There's one more here that'll come from the fuel rail when we get that on. Okay, these banjo fittings torque to 18 foot-pounds. You don't want to overdo them because you will break them if you're not careful. I'm not going any tighter on that one, I don't like it. Hold down here, that clicks in, clicks in as well. This is going to click on here. And there. And let's see, we need to put down here. This line that goes in the back of the head here has the same washers on it. I'll show you. This one's actually got a check valve in it, so it doesn't return fuel in when it's not supposed to. They're kind of a pain to get started. Don't force them, whatever you do, because these housings are aluminum. One in the back of the head here is not bad, but this little manifold down here is aluminum, and you will strip it if you're not careful. That one torques to 32. There we go. Torque this one. Alright. That went to 18 on that one. And we're going to put our fuel filter housing on here. This one doesn't have a hard line on it. Well, it does on this side over here, but not on the back. It's got a flexible line there. Okay. And we've got this line. Okay, this line here is going to go to the fuel rail. We're going to get it on. Get it in there first. And it's the same thing. It's got these banjo fittings with washers on them. If those aren't there, I guarantee it will leak. Okay, here's our fuel rail. There's a relief valve right here. This is the high pressure fuel system. This thing will get up to 40,000 psi and gets pretty up there, so you definitely don't want to crack one of these lines loose ever, especially if it's running or something. It would, even after you shut off, you want to let it set for a few minutes. Make sure all the pressure is bled out of it. You look in here and see how small the holes are. Well, this is my basically a return or a relief valve. If it were to overpressure in here, it will send this back to return over here. And I'm going to torque this one. Pretty important those are torqued. They will leak. And then we'll torque the one back here and that's done. Okay, so fuel comes in here. Down through this pipe, it goes through a pump back here, comes out here, goes to the lift pump, out of the lift pump to the secondary fuel filter. From the secondary fuel filter, it will hook in right here. From there, this is a drain. All these other lines you're seeing are returns. But from right here, we'll send high pressure fuel to our rail, and we'll get all those lines hooked up next. Like I said, that plate down below that cooler or that pump's on, that's the Ecm Cooling Plate. It cools the drivers because they get pretty hot. Most of your newer engines are going to have that stuff. Okay, I had these backwards. So it comes out of the lift pump down here, into this side of the filter, out this side, back into the high pressure pump. I can tell as the arrow, so essentially where fuel comes in, it comes in the outside of the filter cartridge and goes back in on the, where it comes out the center of the filter. Okay, we're installing our high pressure fuel lines here. You'll notice all these lines are the same length. That makes a difference in timing, whether we got those right or not. Kind of a trick if you don't mark where they came from, figuring out which one goes where. Before I did this, so I took and made sure all the lines were clean. They have a ball and seat that goes in there. Got to make sure it's seated right. A little bit of a trick to them, but they're not too bad. Another thing is you typically want to torque these. Some engines will call these a one-use line. If you have problems with them seating or sealing, just about well off to replace them. Like I say, this pressure is pretty high here. We're talking that 20,000-30,000 psi depending on the system. They torque to 28 pounds. Notice I've got my crow's foot at 90 degrees from the torque wrench. Other thing you could use would be a crow's foot. Okay, I need to put our supply line from here to the rail. This is our high pressure relief valve here. Basically, clip these ends in. Run your nuts down. Get both sides started before you tighten them down. Save you some time. Okay, and that's installed.